Thank you. And just checking, councillors, you've all got the handout. So just Lynette and the team and Tony have put a lot of effort into dissecting the NLTP information. So you'll see the outcome of the current funding round. Just a reminder though, there's the information you've asked on detail of the programs is coming to you later in those October sessions. So what you get today is really around the funding side of it. So I'll hand over to Lynette.
Kia ora koutou. Yes, today is about us giving you an update on the facts of where we're at and all the information that we've got of where we're at with the NLTP program and what we know and how it impacts our program. And it's sort of the start of our next journey for the next few weeks of talking through the program. So we've tried to give you some information today. There'll be more coming, but if you have questions outside of this as well, fire them through and we'll make sure they get loaded into the process and we make sure we cover them off. But today I just want to talk about the NLTP. The first one, the first slide I've got here, I've just got a few slides and then we can take questions. It's just a reminder of the process that we go through, the NZTA process that we go through to get the funding. There's 3 different funding streams that are through NZTA. The maintenance, ops and renewals, the low cost, low risk, and on this slide it's called improvements, or the standalone projects as we've been calling them here. The maintenance, ops and renewals and the low cost, low risk are a bid for a 3-year period. So they're these buckets of funding that we can utilise over the 3-year period of the NLTP, which is in this case is 2024 to 2027. The improvement projects or the standalone projects, these are projects over $2 million and they all have to follow a business case, some form of a business process. So I'll go through that a little bit later. The timeline of where we're at. You've seen this one before. When we talked to you last time, we were a lot further back on that red timeline back around the the LTP adoption. So as you're aware, the LTP was adopted in June, the NLTP, the GPS was adopted a couple of days later. The NLTP wasn't released until the 2nd of October, so 2nd of November, September, shoot. I'll just take a breath, sorry. Yeah, the NLTP was released on the 2nd of September, and that's the allocation for the next 3 years. Now, what was released on the 2nd of September was our allocation for maintenance, ops, renewals, and low cost, low risk. The projects, as I've talked about, go through a separate process. Each activity class, so that's each funding class within NZTA has different criteria that need to be met and covers a number of diverse programs. But the main point to note is that there's been a clear message from the government through the publication of the GPS about looking after what we've got, doing the basics right. I'm not even up to my slides here. And that has been reflected in the funding allocations in the NLTP. So doing the basics has come through really clearly in what the government wants councils to focus on. What I have tried to show you here is we've the last sort of 3 triennium, we've slowly been creeping up in the total amount that we have been allocated in our continuous programs or our maintenance, ops, renewals and low cost, low risk. So over the last 3 trienniums, we've this year jumped up quite a lot in those continuous programs. We've got a bigger program that we've got to deliver over the 3 years as well, but you know, it's just showing what's happening. So over time, our funding from NZTA is increasing. Here's numbers. So this is the money slide, if you like. Overall, we are getting 69.9 million of revenue. Now, remember when NZTA talks about things, they talk about it in total program funding. So they include, when they talk about it, it's our funding and their funding joined together. And you will see that on the handouts, particularly on the first page of the handout, there's a grayed out slide at the top. So we've recovered, I have to add that number up again, I added it up.
It's 161 is the total revenue for capital and the operational spend across these categories. So
as a program, the high level that NZTA is saying is 315. So they are supporting a $315 million program at council, which includes our funding and their funding of 161. So those are the overall numbers. Now I've deliberately left the improvement projects in there with a question mark because they are still working through the process. I think, yeah, go to the next one. We did a little bit of a comparison around other councils in the South Island. Look, we are the largest council in the South Island by far and did get the largest dollar value, but only 6 South Island councils received more than 30% increase on what they got last time. So our comparison with metros, the average increase across the South Island was about 18%. With our other metros, so the other comparable councils, look, I haven't compared it to Auckland, that's another whole scale bigger than us. Is again, there's a real mix. Some have gone up, some have gone down between last traineum and this traineum. We've done pretty well with a 30% increase from last traineum across our. This is just across those 2 continuous programs of maintenance ops renewals and low cost, low risk. And if you remember how we set it up when we were working with you on the LTP, we were talking about looking after what we've got. So it's actually set us up to do quite well in that maintenance space. This is the process for those standalone projects that we need to go through. And on the project sheet that you've got in your handouts, it tells you where we're at with all of the existing projects. But if a project is over $2 million, we need to go through this process with NZTA. And if through the process of developing the project, the scope changes significantly or the process changes, something else changes significantly, we sort of have to loop back and start again. So we need to run through and put a point of entry in. They call it a point of entry. It's a short statement on what the problem is that we're solving, and it gives us an idea of the process that we're going to continue with, whether it's a truncated business case or a full-blown business case. Then we've got to do a business case, and at that point, NZTA decides whether they're going to fund or not, and they will fund for that decision is for the whole project, and will go across NLTP funding periods if necessary. Then we can get on with the project delivery, and once we're through that and we're starting to deliver, we've got to spend it and then we claim it back. So that's how the process works. I've put a copy of that in your handout as well, just to help with that understanding. Before I shift off this, just a point of note, we only had 2 individual projects that was flagged by NZTA as potential for funding. One is Pages Road Bridge, which is listed as possible. So at the moment is probable, sorry, thank you, is probable. That means that it will be funded. We just need to go through that process. We're redoing the point of entry at the moment and working with NZTA on that right now. And then we'll run through the business case and then we'll be hopefully into it. But there is funding available to fund it should we get through that process fine. The other one is Kaha surrounding streets. That is listed as possible. That means that it would only be funded if funding becomes available in the activity class. And they have already indicated that they won't be making a decision on that until year 2 of the NLTP. So we will be coming back to you to have a discussion about Te Kaha and what we do next. So in a nutshell, to go, we've got our maintenance, our continuous programs allocation from NZTA. We've worked through our assessment of whether we're up or down against our assumptions that we used for the LTP. We are about $18 million less than we assumed over the 3 years. So that equates to $9 million there or thereabouts of revenue over the 3 years. There's still some ways that we can close the gaps. We are still waiting on some emergency works from past storm events that hasn't been paid through. We've done the work, we're doing the work. We're waiting on that. That equates to about $10 million. There is $100 million of low cost, low risk that is still available across New Zealand to bid for. But again, that won't be available until year 2. So we will be bidding for some of that. So there's a good chance. Well, we've got as much chance as any other council. And the other thing we've got is we're trying to make sure that we're ready to leverage any available funding late in the cycle, like we did last year, and get extra maintenance and ops done. Last year, we had an extra $8 million of surfacing done. So we're working on that. So while we're currently showing slightly down on our assumptions, we believe there's work-ons that we can work back to, get back to neutral over the 3-year period. And of course, we've still got to find out the details around all those projects over $2 million. And that just works through the process. So that's where we're at.
Questions? Right, we got Sarah then Yanni.
I guess the big thing from this is, what does it mean for the decisions we might have to make about the transport program, and what work gets done?
It probably has a bigger impact on the improvement projects, because we've got a pretty good steer now on those ones, or the standalone projects, the ones that will and won't be funded. From a financial perspective, what does it mean for the program?
So it essentially says that our maintenance ops renewals program is pretty much fully funded. So in terms of if you're looking to, again, that optimization metric around our ensuring we get as much funding around our improvement programs, then we've now, I suppose, got a better view on what things may or may not be included in that category, and whether you might want to make some decisions around the timing of those particular projects.
So the improvement programs we'll deal with it at a different workshop.
Yeah, we'll bring those to you as part of the annual plan.
So this is just on ops and renewals.
This is on ops and renewals, but we do need to talk about the whole of the transport program and those options through the thing. And there are options to offset that number that we've just talked to. There are options around programs that we've already signalled may not be funded, such as please don't shoot the messenger, the new footpath program, or this RMAV extension. There's other where we could shift budgets out. There's also options around choosing not to construct big projects like Wheels to Wings now that we know aren't going to get funded. And that's what we've got to work through.
Yeah, or constructing part of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, or construct part of, or
same with Takaha Streets, you may decide to shorten up some
just
parts
spend the
of
money
it.
that we've already got allocated as our share, and only do that much work.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what we can work through.
Okay, thank you. Vic, you had to shoot away sooner or later, didn't you? So, so do you now, please.
Question, thanks. Just picking up then on what you've said there, that the maintenance ops and the renewals program is fully funded. Why are we spending time on it? What are we actually doing here today?
councillors, you wanted a better understanding of the full impact of the NLTP and how it affected the full work program. So that's why we're bringing that back to you today. This is the areas that you can see what's been funded and what hasn't.
So the maintenance ops and renewals program is fully funded, so we don't need to spend any time on it? Is that?
If you don't want to, but we are bringing in October, we are bringing back the full programs of work with the detail of which streets are going to get sealed, which ones aren't going to get sealed, those types of things. So it gives you a bit of that forward information as to an understanding of the funding behind them. It's just a bit more information around the revenue side of the calculation, but the programs will be coming back as part of the annual plan.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Yanni, please.
Thank you. I'm just trying to understand. So I'm looking at the spreadsheet. So if I looked at like Wine Street, I can't find it on here, but I see with curb renewal, you've got Bank Street and Kissel Street in Templeton, and you've got specific reference to them, and then you've got program budgets. And I think my understanding from the previous workshop was that what we would think of as a renewal, like a curb and channel renewal, isn't the same as what gets classified under MOR. So basically, MOR is more the light touch bare minimum, whereas our road renewals would look at things like, we'd have an environmental kind of framework as well as a condition framework. And so what I'm just sort of struggling to understand from this is where do the road renewals fit in terms of our definition, and is there another page we should be looking at, or what's the flexibility within that program? How do we choose which ones in that program we put forward, and what was the expected amount that we received? But yeah, this is what we actually got.
So as Brent just alluded to, the detail of these programs is going to come back through the workshops, and we are going to talk to the breakdown of the line items. So the program that you're talking to is 205, the program street renewals. That is our street renewals, and it's got $3.8 million this year and $8.3 million next year. But it hasn't been drawn. At the moment, we haven't pulled it down into streets, but some of the streets were named in the LTP, so that's why they're listed below.
Right.
And I understand the challenge with that definition, but ultimately, if we're going in to renew the street and put a new, so if you think about the looking after the asset that we've got, the big expensive asset is the road pavement, is the carriageway. And if we're going in to renew that and replace it, depending on the condition and all the rest of it, that could fit under that. But the footpaths and the berms and that wouldn't be a funded part of the project, but we could claim under MOR for the resurfacing or the new road that we built, because that's part of maintenance ops and renewals in that sense.
So you might have a couple of different sources of funding which will go together to a project.
Yeah,
it's not a one-for-one, necessarily a one-for-one relationship.
So when we bring those programs back for you to have a look at and make decisions on in October, you'll be able to see how we might be able to knit those together to form a project to deliver, if that's your priority at the time.
What's the opportunity, like, and again, I'll just use the Pages Road example, where we're doing a significant amount of curb and channel renewal, but we don't go through the environmental scan around what we want to achieve. When do we get the conversation about that? Like, if we wanted to take it from an operational maintenance to a capital renewal project.
I don't.
Well, like if you take Wine Street, what happened there is we got funding and we went in and we did maintenance, what we call maintenance renewal on the top. Ironically, we made the condition worse because it actually needed a full renewal. And now where we're at is the board got told you can continue with the renewal, but obviously the money that we've spent will be wasted, or you could do another street. We chose when we went and had a site visit to actually do Wine Street because for whatever reason, but we seem to have different levels of renewals. We've got the operational program that does the bare minimum, just puts back what was there. And then we've got other renewals, which actually does a lot more and adds, some planting and maybe some
a full
crossings.
renewal type thing.
Yeah, and I don't quite understand how we ever have a conversation about what road fits in what category.
That is the conversation in October,
Yeah,
councillor.
yeah.
Definitely.
So I think what we'll do is, if you've got a specifics like that, if you could send them through and we can discuss them when we look at those programs specifically and how we may or may not be able to fit them in.
Right.
Ultimately, it's going to be an opportunity for you as councillors to do some priority work on some of those
Okay,
programs.
so the key thing is we lost $42 million of expected funding from NZTA. Is that how we read this? Like,
No, 42 million is what we've got on budget. We only ever assumed that we were going to get.
2 million.
There's only 2 million of that we assumed was going to get funded. Is what I'm trying to show in that.
Oh, okay. So can someone tell me what's happening with public transport? Because I'm just really confused. Like, I thought the government was going to give us money for PT. We did a whole business case, future PT business case.
Right.
Where have we got to with
Yeah.
public transport?
So through the NLTP, there has been more money put into PT for the whole of the country, but it has been swallowed up by some very big projects up in Wellington, or particularly in Wellington and Auckland. So there isn't a lot of money floating around for PT, extra money for PT, particularly here in Christchurch at the moment. It depends on how the expenditure goes over the period. We are still finalising our detailed business case for PT Futures. So that's the detailed business case relating to the infrastructure that's proposed over in the program of infrastructure. We're also looking at how we can maximise the other funding sources that we've got, like CRAF and other projects that may get support. So those standalone projects that may get support. So we're working through that at the moment.
We'll try and get our PT Futures into a place where we can be available should any of those major North Island ones hit any snags,
Yeah, that's
and
what
the
we're
funding
looking to do.
becomes available. So we want to get ourselves in a good position for that.
Thank you. Tim?
With the 100 million available in year 2 or from year 2 with the LCLR, low cost, low risk, is that the same kind of preparation as, say, shovel ready? So if the more prepared we are, the more likely we are to get the lion's or a decent share of that fund?
I think it's the definition around it relates to regional priorities. So there will be some priorities defined through both the GPS and the and NZTA's investment prioritisation model that we would need to be able to meet to do that. So we'll be looking at that and seeing what projects we've got that we could put forward for it.
So the better prepared we are,
Yep.
the more likely we will to get. So rather than kind of saying, oh no, we haven't got this, we haven't got that, we're better to give you the ability to put positive energy into something to try and clip the ticket a bit
great.
more than
Yep.
everyone else.
Yeah, it's a bit like having plans in the drawer ready to go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
It's
so
the same
it's cool.
scenario.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Just returning to the PT Futures, you referenced that it's in the category of business case to be considered, and I can see you've got it listed there under 73854, but you've also got a number of PT Futures projects there that are under the category projects not funded by NZTA.
Yep. So
just clarifying that there are a chunk of the PT Futures projects that are not being funded that aren't going anywhere else at the moment.
the low cost, low risk ones are not being funded. No, none of them got funded in this round of the. So that's why we want to look at what other funding mechanisms we've got, and that's part of what we'll come and talk to you about in the workshops.
Okay, and
We're
so
working
then
through
we'll
that at the
get
moment.
perhaps some better oversight on exactly what is included under that 73854 program that's currently out working on the business case.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sam?
Hey, thank you, Lynette. This is really good because it sets a bit of a scene as we work through the next sort of 6 weeks, I guess, on transport. So I appreciate that. Could you just explain it really layman's terms? If you zip back a few slides
Oh, not that way.
to the fund, keep no, that one there.
Yep.
Is that the one? Could you just explain? So allocation at NLTP adoption, 310 versus the. So what are we saying? We've increased our allocation by 90 odd million.
So
Well, they've given us more,
in 2018 to 23,
Yeah.
we to read this off here. Sorry, hang on, it's on my slides. I haven't got the numbers.
It's 2018.
2018 to 23. The blue thing, the blue bar is what we were allocated.
Yep.
The grey bar is what we claimed, which is slightly more, there or thereabouts. And so the blue bar is what we've been allocated each year. So yes, we've increased since 2018 about 90 odd million.
So in
over
the
900 million.
two NLTPs though, from the last one to this one, have I got it just so I get it in my mind?
Yeah.
We've effectively gone from 222 to 310.
Yes.
Yeah. So we've had a 90 mil increase. And okay.
Yeah. Okay,
that's cool. And then can you just, sorry, the only other one, Phil, and then I'll be quiet, is just around the there was another slide which had the
No.
keep going. It was the one around relative to that one there. So can you just explain what you meant, what you actually meant by that? So what are you saying, that on average council's got 18, but we got a 30% increase? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
The average across all the South Island councils was 18%. 6 councils across the South Island received more than 30%.
Yep.
Some of them were quite high, but they were very, very small councils and very, very small and quite small dollar values.
Yeah.
But the percentage increase was quite high. And in relation to the other metros that are comparable to us, so Tauranga, Hamilton, others, we received 30, and the next one was 26, 22, and some of them actually went backwards.
Yeah. Okay. Well, well done to the team. That's
Thank
a really
you.
good effort.
Yeah, that's that lot up there, not me.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Celeste.
Sorry, it's just on the same slide. I think you mentioned that doesn't include projects, right? If we added it in, say, wooden bypass, would that then change the?
That's an NZTA project.
Yeah. So it's
Wooden
outside of our
bypass is outside of the local authorities.
Standalone projects aren't included in this figure, are they?
No.
And in terms of the process going forward, I'm just not clear with things like the detailed business case for specific projects. No surprise, Pages Road. Will you come back in October to tell us what the next steps are? Because we still don't really understand when we will get clarity over what the total contribution will be.
We won't get clarity over what the total contribution will be until a business case is approved. So we're working through that. So we will keep you updated through the watch list reporting.
Yep. And we can update you as to where in the process we are with some of those.
And at the moment, we're having to redo the point of entry, right, because of the change of what we're talking about.
Thanks, Lynette. So you said we're up 31%. Obviously, every NLTP you'd expect us to go up every 3 years. What was the increase last time around?
Oh, that shows actually on that. So I don't know what the percentage was, but it was smaller.
Okay,
you can
cool.
see it there from 1821.
Okay, thank you. No, all good.
We went from about 180 million to about 220, and then we've gone up to about 310.
Oh, yeah. So a little bit hard to calculate. Well, in Auckland, you said, I don't know why we can't be compared to Auckland.
I just didn't because of the size comparator.
What it is?
I don't know, sorry.
Oh,
Top of my head, no.
Because I bet it's a lot
Would it be
more.
on their website?
It'd be good to find out. It'd be good to find out.
Okay, so that looks like the end of questions, apart from the one that Yanni's just going to ask.
I'm trying to understand with Pages Road Bridge, how much do we have on budget? How much has NZTA allocated? And what's the gap?
I absolutely can't answer that question right now.
So when will we be in a position to know?
NZTA has, they know our budgets and they've got the same numbers that we've got because they went into the RLTP. We are updating the point of entry right now, and then we will move straight into a business case process, and that will be reasonably. We will be working very hard and very swiftly on that because we've done a lot of work on it. So it is pulling everything together. And as soon as we know that, we will finalise it.
So where does the figure of $13 million come from?
The $13 million just relates to the budget that we've currently got in this 3-year period on our LTP. So it does align with what we're proposing to spend in this 3-year period. That's what we've got on, because this only deals with, this NLTP only deals with this 3-year period. So this, the first 3 years of the LTP. But when that approval comes through, it will be for the whole of project funding.
And the Fitzgerald, like I was just going to start a campaign called Fix the Fitz to build fix the bridge, but that's a lifeline bridge as well.
Yep.
And did we have that in the program? Did we get allocation of funding? Yeah, you're much better than me at that. So where is that in terms of?
No,
we've obviously had the Alpine fault presentation, and we've been made aware of the risks around that.
It's out beyond that. It's out beyond the.
Yes, that's getting out beyond what we're talking
period.
about here.
And that's why it's on the list. It's beyond the 3-year period.
Yeah.
And we will be working through this process with NZTA, but earlier in the process.
Thank you, Lynette. That's great. All right, we've finished with questions. So thank you very much for coming in
Thank you all very much.
Briefing us up. So that concludes our information sessions for the week. Thank you very much.